Asia is the largest and most populous continent on the planet, and with such a rich and diverse history, it's home to thousands of myths, legends, and horror stories. So as you can imagine, haunted locations are abundant. They range from ghost stories surrounding the Great Wall of China to Singapore's most haunted beach that was the scene of horrific war crimes. Here are 5 of some of the most haunted and terrifying locations in all of Asia. Hit the lights, sit back, and enjoy. Bangor Fort. Bangor Fort was built in the Rajasthan state of India in the 17th century and is located in the now ruinous abandoned city of Bangor, around 300 kilometers from Delhi. It's listed as the most haunted place in India and is one of Rajasthan's most popular tourist attractions. The main reason for interest is the 2 enduring mysteries that surround it, and the belief that the fort is teeming with paranormal activity. In fact, the Archaeological Survey of India has banned tourists from visiting the site from sunset to sunrise. It's the only legally haunted place recognised by the government of India. It's believed that if a person enters the fort after sunset, they will never come out. According to one of the myths, the fort was cursed by Guru Balu Nath, who initially sanctioned the construction of the city on the condition that his sacred meditating place that was nearby should not be overshadowed by the buildings, and if they did, the city would fall into ruin. Not heeding the warning, the building cast a shadow over his retreat, and true to his word, he supposedly cursed the city, causing it to fall into ruin. It's said Balu's tomb can be found underneath the rubble. Another legend is that of Princess Ratnavati. When Ratnavati turned 18, she was inundated with marriage proposals, one of which was a sorcerer named Singhya Servra. He soon realised he had no chance of catching the princess's eye, so decided to use black magic to try and entice her. He took his opportunity when he saw one of her maids purchasing perfume from the local market, and placed a black magic spell on the perfume. The princess became aware of what Servra had done and smashed the perfume bottle against a rock that rolled and crushed him. It's said that before he died, he cursed the entire land, and the following year, a battle ensued and the whole population of the city, including the princess, were killed. It's said that the spirit of the princess has returned to the fort in several different forms, in an attempt to lift the spell from Bangor. Of course, researchers have dismissed these claims as nothing more than legends, but the locals are convinced the fort is a haven for ghosts, and many say that even though Bangor is deserted at night, strange noises can be heard, including music and dancing coming from the ruins, as well as the sounds of a woman screaming and crying, along with a waft of perfume. I'd love to hear from anyone who has visited the fort and whether they experienced anything strange. Memeland, Malaysia. Memeland is an abandoned theme park in Gombak, Selangor, and was Malaysia's first theme park. It opened in 1971, and one of its most impressive attractions was the prehistoric animal park that contained huge dinosaur models. It also had a giant maze, a water slide, and a fishing lake. For many years, it was the go-to attraction for tourists and locals, until in January 1993, a 27-year-old Singaporean lost his life in a freak accident on the water slide. The incident resulted in the temporary closure of Memeland as safety improvements were ordered. Shortly after it reopened in May 1994, a minor landslide caused damage to the walls of the pool and resulted in muddy water leaking in. The area was closed to the public, and after concerns about safety and security, Memeland was closed permanently shortly after. Today, the eerie reminders of the once bustling theme park still survive, and it's slowly being taken over by nature. Despite locals being keen for the area to be redeveloped, it's remained untouched and decaying since the day it closed. However, this has not stopped the visitors who now flock to the site looking for a different kind of thrill. It's long been thought that Memeland is a gateway to the paranormal world, and there have been many spine-chilling tales of hauntings and strange happenings. In fact, the problem of trespassers is so bad that the place has security guards and dogs in place to try and prevent entry to the site. But the vastness and location of the theme park makes it difficult to keep people out, and it's feared that their relentless pursuit of the paranormal is putting them in danger. Many people also believe the land sits on a mythical area inhabited by Orang Bunian, a supernatural being in Malay folklore, which is a presence that is only visible to those with spiritual sight. If they are sighted, their appearance is almost human-like with elf-like features. Although these beings are normally harmless, they have supposedly been blamed for the disappearance of children or people getting lost in the forest. Changi Beach. Changi Beach is found in the eastern region of Singapore, and today it's a tranquil place with stretches of stunning white sand lined with coconut palms and the scene of some of the most extraordinary sunsets in the world. However, this beautiful place hides a dark past and was once a slaughter ground for the Japanese during the Second World War, when they swept in and occupied the British colony of Singapore. The beach was the scene of the most horrific torture and execution of innocent people, mostly migrated Chinese who were accused of being anti-Japanese. In horrendous acts, they were rounded up and beheaded, and their severed heads were stacked up on the sand and left for grief-stricken relatives to retrieve. Others who met their death at the beach were taken out to the sea in small boats, then tossed overboard and machine-gunned as they floated in the water. Today, it's reported that the souls of these innocent victims are still wandering the sands as they seek an explanation for their brutal end. Visitors to the beach have reported strange things, such as haunting cries and screams echoing through the night, along with anguished sobs of women. Many are adamant that the sand is sometimes blood-stained, and it's claimed decapitated heads have been seen bobbing up and down in the sea, as well as headless bodies roaming the beach, allegedly unable to travel to the afterlife until they are complete again. Fishermen still get human skulls caught in their nets, and each tide covers and then uncovers hundreds of memorials and urns left by mourning families on the sand. Anyone who dares to touch or remove them is said to get cursed. The locals believe that the innocent victims of Japanese war crimes cannot rest at the injustice of their deaths and haunt the beach. Sadly, it seems that they will never find peace, as ironically 135 Japanese war criminals who were responsible for their executions were tried after the war and also executed on the beach, meaning many to say that the victims and the torturers are inextricably linked forever. Lawang Sui in Indonesia. Lawang Sui is located in central Java in Indonesia and was built in 1917 as the headquarters of the Dutch East Indies Railway Company. Lawang Sui is its local name and means 1,000 doors, although it actually only had 600 doors and windows. During World War II, the Japanese occupied Indonesia, and the building was taken over by Japanese forces and used as a prison. The inmates were treated harshly, with many of them being executed and tortured in the basement. However, in 1945, at the Battle of Semarang, the city was retaken by the Dutch, but it seems the building has not forgotten its torturous past and has earned a reputation as one of the most haunted places in Indonesia. These days, the building has been converted into a museum and event space. But despite this, the keeper of the keys still has to leave offerings in front of one of the doors, and pray for no apparitions or disturbances during events, in the belief that if he doesn't, something will go wrong. The original trapdoor from the basement still remains, and it's said that it was used by the guards to carry out the executed bodies and dump them in the river by the building. The basement itself was a dark and dingy place. It had 3 forks within it, giving prisoners the illusion that one path would lead to their freedom. However, all 3 paths eventually led to a dead end, and prisoners were left to starve to death in water up to their necks. It's rumoured that a lot of these tortured spirits still regularly show up through possessions or apparitions. Visitors flock to the building to admire its beauty, but also to hopefully capture a glimpse of the many ghosts that reside within. The most common sighting is of a headless spirit who wanders the grounds and corridors of the building, as well as the spectre of a Dutch woman who is believed to have committed suicide there. There is also a vampire ghost, known locally as Pontianak, that is thought to lurk around the building, and despite the local government trying to play down the hauntings, it still doesn't deter the ghost hunters who travel to Luang Sui. I would love to know if you've ever been. The Great Wall of China. The Great Wall of China extends more than 5,000 miles through northern China, and its construction started in the 3rd century BC when China's first emperor Qin built it to prevent invasions from barbarian nomads. Over the years, it's been added to and renovated, but is still regarded as one of the most formidable building projects ever undertaken by any civilization. Ironically, it was never that effective at preventing intruders into China. Instead, it served as more of a psychological barrier, as an enduring symbol as the strength of the country. Today, the wall is a World Heritage Site and attracts tourists from all around the world. But many forget that it's thought to be one of the most haunted places in the world. Not surprisingly, when you realise countless people have died there at various stages during its construction. A popular myth is that their bodies were interred into the wall, or that their bones were crushed up and used as mortar. However, no human bones or human remains have ever been found in the wall. What is true is that the bodies of dead workers were not returned to their families to be buried, and this was considered a great act of sacrilege at the time. As in line with Chinese tradition, if the dead were not buried in their home village with their ancestors, then their soul would become lost and forced to wander as a hungry ghost. There is a popular legend that tells the story of a woman whose husband was sent north to work on the wall soon after they were married. She became concerned that her husband did not have enough warm clothes and set out on a long journey to take him some. When she arrived, she discovered that he had died from hunger and exhaustion, and his body had already been buried along with others in a pit under the Great Wall. She broke down in tears and started hammering on the wall. Legend has it, her pain mysteriously caused the Great Wall to break open, revealing hundreds of dead labourers. She retrieved her husband's bones and took them back to their village for a proper burial. With these types of stories circulating, it's unsurprising that many visitors have spotted apparitions walking the wall, or heard the sounds of people marching when no one is there. Some have reported being grabbed, punched and slapped by an unseen force, and others have complained of an uneasy feeling and sudden nausea, headaches and other unexplained body pains. Local legend states, if you visit the Great Wall, the spirits of the fallen workers will haunt you, until you cross a line of firecrackers to scare them away. After all this, it seems that the part of the wall that is north of Beijing, known as the Wild Wall, is most susceptible to paranormal activity. Several hikers died near this section. Their deaths were attributed to lightning strikes and fatal falls. So that's 5 of the most haunted places in Asia. I hope you've enjoyed episode 3 of this series and are loving these regular uploads and creepy stories that we are uploading to the Top 5's website. Don't forget to check it out at www.top5s.co.uk. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.